updates and went through the updates. So we are starting a little bit late. My apologies with regards to that, but what computers, you gotta love them and you gotta be frustrated by it, but that's how it goes in life. So happy Monday morning, the last Monday of the month of March. I can't believe it. Monday, March 25th, the last week. A lot of people are on spring break this week, last week of March, spring break, and then Easter next week. So hope everybody is preparing and getting ready for that holiday if you so choose to participate. So Women's History Month. March was Women's History Month, and I realized that last week I forgot to highlight my mug. So this week I made sure I remembered. So this is a great mug. A friend of mine gave it to me. It's the Girl Gang. If you guys can see that. Blast from the Past, my history. You have all the Peanuts characters there. Love them. If kids these days don't know who the Peanuts are, we gotta change that. Maybe we'll pass the law. Just kidding. Anyway, Women's History Month. So last week, the last day of session for the month of March in the House was Women's History Month, and I gave remarks to regards to three wonderful women that I have known that have since passed, legacy veterans in the Women Marine Association. They started the Women Marine Association here in Illinois, the Illinois to Blanche Osborne chapter. One of them was Muriel Underwood. She was a World War II Marine, and she was a mimeograph. So she did that for her service in the Marines. Our good friend Helen Ellers, as she's been on our program, I think 2 years ago for June. Helen Ellers was a World War II Marine as well. She repaired and put together instrument panels for the airplanes, the Corsairs, that the gentlemen were flying over in World War II. And then Mary Roa, she was in PR. She was at Headquarters Marine Corps, Henderson Hall. So Mary was 97. Helen and Muriel was a wonderful young age of 100. They both passed away within the last couple months. And all three of them were founding members of the Women Marine Association chapter here in Illinois. Now, Blanche Osborne is the name of the Illinois chapter of the Women Marine Association, and she was a World War I veteran. And during World War II, she was very active in supporting the troops. She was very active in doing blood drives. She wrote articles to tell service members and veterans all about their benefits. And she started, which is now known as the USO. So back then it was not called the USO, but today it is the USO. It's grown and it's done a lot of great things. So hats off to our women veterans. Those individuals I highlighted along with a list of other female veterans that were very predominant in not only in Illinois, but also throughout our nation. For Illinois, we have distinguished veteran Senator, U.S. Senator Tammy Duckworth, and we also have, she passed away at a very young age, but Colonel Jill Morgenthaler. She was a woman of many firsts. I was blessed to know her too in the Army. So both of those women were in the Army. So last week of Women's History Month, and so if you know of a woman that really inspires you, make sure you thank them. And I realized that we have months to, we had Black History Month and then Women's History Month. But, sometimes it's good to focus on a little bit of the nuances of life that doesn't always get a good focus. So that's why these months are, I think, important and give rise to making sure that we give a little extra attention to the history makers in our community. So thank you all for joining today. It's raining, but the weather's 50 degrees. Now, yesterday I did run the Shamrock Shuffle. I finished, which is my goal, in just a smidge over an hour. So it's not too bad. It was 5 miles. The weather was a bit chilly, but it was in my opinion, it was good weather to run in. and was there with tens of thousands of my closest friends running the Shamrock Shuffle. So it was a great event. It was a fun event, and you know, one of those things, you got to set a goal and you got to do it. So set that goal and did it last year. Actually, last year was um, January 1 goal to get back into my running shape. And so then this year it's starting to come together. So pretty happy with regards to that. But enough about me. Let's talk about the General Assembly and see what is going on in Springfield. We were in Springfield last week. As you know, there was an election, the primary election. You might not know, but there was a primary election on Tuesday. And then we were in session Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Now, we had a lot of committee meetings with regards to that. So not a lot of floor action. So if you want to know what happened on the General Assembly on the floor, not a lot, but we're passing bills. So we were both there, the House and the Senate. We were there, like I said, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and passed a couple bills with regards to a whole bunch of things. So we do have a whole bunch of things on the docket with that is going to be teed up. Now we are not in this week. This week we are not in the General Assembly. We have this week off. The Senate has this week and next week off. Our deadline is April 5th to get bills out of committee. The deadline for the Senate was last week, but so in the grand scheme of Springfield, that they have deadlines and then you get extensions for the deadlines. So after the primary, we were both in mostly committee hearings, like I said, and then we're having a short break, like I said. We will be back in April 2nd. Now, April 2nd is the deadline for us to get our amendments filed so that they're reviewed. April 5th is our deadline to get things out of committee. So last week in the Senate, 20 bills went out of committee, 65 bills went on to third reading in the Senate. They have to go from the Senate to the House. 398 bills got extensions. So that's in the Senate. In the House, again, we don't have a deadline, but 133 bills came out of committee last week. So we've been working, like I said, committee work. And a lot of the committees are also looking at reviewing the governor's budget as well. So this is a dual time with regards to our work in the General Assembly. The speaker announced a working group, a task force with regards to teacher shortage. So the speaker put together this task force, and we do a lot of work on task forces. And I know a lot of people give it a little bit of grief. Oh, another task force, another working group. I take that back. This is a working group, not a task force. But it allows the General Assembly to rely on a group of people to really dig into the weeds of a lot of these subjects. And then they come back and they give a report to the General Assembly. So while a lot of people like to give a little bit of grief, like to talk about how we have too many task forces, working groups, they really are quite a viable thing and really important with regards to the work that we have to do. I've been on several task forces, and we've done a lot of reports, and I think we've gotten some really good legislation out of it. So really happy to think that these working groups and task force do have a good purpose. But the speaker announced a teacher shortage working group. So it's designed to address the issue of vacancies in Illinois schools and exploring ways to recruit and retain qualified educators. So the nationwide we're having a shortage of teachers. So Illinois is not unique in this, but we still have an issue and we still need to work on this. So they want to find ways to recruit, retain, and diversify the pool of professionals that are in our schools, helping to really shape the lives of children. I know myself, including other people, rely on teachers that were great motivators and wonderful inspirations throughout our lives, and teachers are one of them. So Representative Katie Stewart, she is charged to lead this group. So she taught mathematics to middle school and high schoolers. She was in Highland and Edwardsville, and she taught mathematics to college students at Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. So she's a great educator leading this working group. Who else is on the working group besides Representative Katie Stewart? You have Representative Harry Benton, Sharon Chung, Fred Crespo, Will Davis, Laura Faber-Dias, Michelle Mussman, Aaron Ortiz, and Representative Sue Scher. So we definitely are looking at the fact that we don't have enough teachers in the pipeline, which means going to school to be teachers to come out as educators. So I've done a couple things over the years, simplified the licensing process for educators. We lowered licensing fees, and we also raised the minimum wage for teachers to $40,000 a year. And but you know, still seeing a shortage. So we're working with regards to that as well. Another task force that I'm a member of. So it does take a while, and I understand that things do take a while. So I want to say 2 years ago, I passed a mental health task force bill, which was to put on was to really look at how the stressors of our children in DCFS care, foster care, really are affected, and how we can get prospective or preventative mental health care to the youth in care under DCF care. Now, that was 2 years ago. We've been waiting appointments from the governor's office. And so we just got notification that all the vacant appointments for the holistic mental health care for youth in care task force, which was again back in the 102nd General Assembly. We're in the 103rd General Assembly right now, but that was we're in the second year of the 103rd General Assembly, so it was 2 years ago. So they've all been filled now. So I just got notification from DCFS that all the vacancies had been filled. I've been put on this task force. It was my legislation along with Senator Morrison, and Senator Morrison has agreed to serve as the chair. So looking at going forward, I'm really excited to be working on this task force as well. I'm happy it finally got up and running because you know, I just think that we need to start the children that are in DCFS care, that are in the foster care system, are literally children of the state. The state comes over and takes over the parental abilities of these children and then put them in foster homes. And it's traumatic, it's stress. So we need to do all we can for these children so that they have a great future. So looking forward to this task force. That's another thing on my docket. I'm not complaining. I think it's going to be a great thing. Senator Morrison and I work together very well. And so looking forward to that task force as well. So other than that, what else can we say is going on? There's a couple bills that are interesting that are going through the General Assembly. I just want to highlight a few of them for you in case you're interested. These are some bills that I thought is kind of interesting as well. So there's been, especially in the veteran community, talk of psilocybin, or otherwise known as magic mushrooms. And there's been talk about how this, for lack of a better word, how this substance affects the brain and helps give relief for depression, especially depression, PTSD in veterans. So there's been a little bit of a push for this. Now, the FDA has not approved any kind of substance of this nature with regards to this medical treatment. Now they just want it to be available for medical treatment, similar to what we did for medical marijuana. But I think this is a little bit more complex of a pretty much of a substance. So anyway, Senator Ventura in the Senate is holding subject matter hearings to create the Compassionate Use and Research of Estrogens Act to make psilocybin legal for medical treatment of mental health conditions. So there's more to this subject, but that's something that I'm following. particularly because the subject matter has been brought up in the veteran community, the veteran sphere as well. Another bill, we talked about this last year, or not last year, last week. A week sometimes feels like a year, especially in Springfield. The Workers' Freedom of Speech Act, we talked about this last week, that individuals who refuse to participate in an employer-sponsored meeting that's meant to communicate the opinion of the employer regarding religious or political matters. We talked about that. That's the bill that I'm still following as well. And then again, talked about this last week, still following the legislation, House Bill 5308, Chair Don Gertzowitz, to require large social media companies like TikTok, Snapchat, Facebook, and Instagram to use a third-party vendor to alert parents if their child is being bullied online. Or talking about suicide, talking about drugs, talking about engaging in dangerous behavior. And it's just a different world these days. As I have said in the past, when you had bullies in school, my generation, you went home and the bullies were gone because you just went home and you hung out with kids in the neighborhood and, life was fine. And then you went back to school and the bullies were there. But you got a break. Here in the world of the internet, there's no break. There's no break from these bullies, and they are, in my opinion, more and more and more intense. And the effects is 20-fold the way things go on the internet. So we take this very seriously. And I know I mentioned it before, but mention it again. That we as government need to really step up and do something about social media and the internet and look at regulation. I know there are individuals that are not fans of government regulation, but you cannot have a free fall. We've seen this. We're seeing this now where there's no regulation and young children are taking their lives because of, in part, bullying and social media impressions and algorithms and things on the internet. So when we look at suicide being one of the top 3 causes of death for children between the ages of 11 and 18, that's a huge issue and something that we have to do about it. And that's what government is to do, because government can do so much more than individual parents who are working, who are busy, who are trying their hardest every single day. And that's where government steps in. And another factor, and I might have talked about this before, but bears repeating, is in the governor's address, state of state address, he talked about healthcare. And this is another avenue where government comes into play. So he is championing, and the sponsor in the House is Representative Anna Mueller, and House Bill 5395, the Healthcare Consumer Access and Protection Act. Now, I can tell you, this got voted out of committee, and I've talked about this before, maybe last week, but I've told you, individuals have talked to me about issues they have with step therapy and some prior authorization for mental health care and the likes. And when you have health insurance companies really impeding health because they're looking more at profits over health. So it would ban step therapy, ban prior authorization for inpatient mental health care, establish statewide standards for clinical criteria when performing utilization review, and prohibit insurance companies from selling short-term limited duration plans, require insurers to publicly list all treatments that require prior authorization, raise network adequacy and transparency standards. That's along the lines of ghost networks. Requiring insurers to submit updated in-network care directories, again, to cut back down on ghost networks, and then authorize the Department of Insurance to fine insurers who violate network adequacy requirements, require cost-sharing adjustments for insurers to participate in the exchange in 2026, and require insurers to post during drug prices as well. So definitely that's a big issue. So there's a lot of big things going on there, and really excited about that. And then believe it or not, the governor's still signing bills. We passed something in veto session. The governor has several months before he needs to sign it. So we did sign House Bill 779 to establish requirements to operate as a pawnbroker and impose restrictions on pawnbrokers and other entities that are often act as predatory lending. Now, predatory lending is a huge issue, and again, we're working very hard in the General Assembly with regards to this issue. So, with our work, there was a study that was given that says that fewer Illinois residents are using payday lenders after the state capped the interest rates. Now, interest rates on these payday loans could have gone as high as 178%, 228% for installment loans, and 297% interest on payday loans. That's just incredible. There's no way you can pay back a loan when it's tripling like that, 297% for a payday loan. So March 2021, we passed a law that capped the interest rates at 36%, including all fees, 36%. So in 2019, we were looking at Illinois consumers paid $607 million on interest and fees. That was the fourth highest in the nation, and more than $1 million going to payday loans, installment payday loans, and auto loans. So in 2022, we just had a report done. These are reports that come across my desk. A year after the Predatory Loan Act took into effect, borrowers took out 105 of these loans, and the fees totaled $1,279. So, historically, minority low-income communities take out a disproportionate share of high-cost loans like these. But after the law passed, many payday lenders, auto title lenders, and high-cost installment lenders closed, and while more affordable installment lenders expanded in Illinois. So what we had was the shady guys closed up, and now we have more responsible individuals that are coming for more affordable lending in Illinois. So, and then what they also found is that payday loans were often made too easy, to be quite honest. And so people would just take the payday loan before their paycheck. And so now people are waiting for their paycheck with regards to the needs that they need. And then also they were going to more traditional loans, or they tapped into their personal savings. So they just use different aspects of being able to pay what they needed to get paid. So I'm having to plug into my laptop. I figured my laptop would have greater battery, but it doesn't. So one moment while I pull out my cord for my laptop and plug it in really quick. But that's because on the laptop I look on the Facebook. So Roger is on Facebook saying a kind of damp good morning to everybody and who's joining us. And James McIntyre says a great way to start. Thanks for keeping the train on the wheel. James is, I believe, talking about the task force that I just mentioned, because James works a lot with youth and care. So really appreciate all the work that folks do in Springfield, advocating for those that need it. So, and with that, we will move right on to the next subject that we have. So still talking about the LaSalle Veterans Home outbreak. It killed 36 residents during COVID. And they had hearings with regards to that, an audit. And the biggest thing is that staffing has been very difficult. So we're talking about shortages of teachers, also shortages of healthcare professionals. And, they've been increasing their payments, their paycheck, and it's just really, really challenging with regards to staffing, especially in our veterans homes. We've been trying to get the Chicago Veterans Home up and running, and staffing is an issue as well. So an audit came out recently that looked at the Illinois Department of Veterans Affairs, looking at the changes that they made to prevent future outbreaks. One of the legislations that I passed was to notify of outbreaks. They do post those on their website when they have any kind of outbreak whatsoever. And then they also have weekly infection control meetings. So IDVA is doing, it has done a lot and has really, really stepped up to put better policies in place. And, but again, one of the biggest things is staffing. So looking at that, one of the things that, there's things that you wish you didn't have to look into as a state representative. But one of it is in my opinion, some deceptive marketing techniques. Everybody wants a buck. And I know that I've talked in the past that we are looking at legislation because now you have liquor-induced sodas like Mountain Dew, and not putting these liquor-induced sodas next to regular soda. So don't put the Mountain Dew with alcohol next to the Mountain Dew without alcohol. It's advertising and marketing and kind of promoting towards, children and young people. Along the same vein is, again, Senator Julie Morrison, who I work very closely with, and she is very, 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 very active in looking at legislation to ban vaping companies from advertising, marketing, or promoting e-cigarettes that would confuse parents or teachers into thinking the devices are common items. I just have to sigh at that. So looking at legislation, the latest style of electric cigarettes are designed to look like highlighters, erasers, and other school supplies. Teachers have complained to the Illinois Department of Healthcare and Family Services about finding vapes in school that look like pencil sharpeners, erasers, and toys. Because, a buck is a buck, and these companies are shameless, and they just want to occupy profit. So what this would do, Senator Morrison is looking at, would give the Illinois Department of Revenue, the Attorney General, and local law enforcement the authority to prosecute. So similar to that, they wouldn't be able to sell them like that in Illinois, but a separate plan would also prohibit companies from shipping e-cigarettes to anyone in Illinois other than a distributor or a retail store. So sponsors and advocates said that many young people are buying vaping products online and having them mailed to themselves or a friend. Again, the bill would empower local law enforcement, Department of Revenue to look at it. So both of these have passed unanimously out of the Senate Executive Committee, and they are awaiting with regards to the House. But that's one of those things that you just hate to have to pass legislation with regards to this, but you have companies that really have zero moral compass and are only focusing on profit. And they're focusing on young people because young people potentially could have more discretionary income, in terms of allowance and that sort of thing. We also are set to vote, like I said, Sammy's Law. That's a social media platform bill that I talked about that leader Jennifer Gong-Gertzowitz is championing. Definitely it's called Sammy's Law, named after 16-year-old Sammy Chapman, who died after buying fentanyl-laced drugs on Snapchat, having them delivered to his home. So that's the background with regards to the law that I mentioned before. Senator McConkey's bill is looking at legislation to ease the challenges faced by people with disabilities when charging their electric vehicles. So improving the accessibility of EV charging stations. So every gas station and pump in America is accessible for a vast majority of people with disability, including individuals in a wheelchair, of which Senator McConkey does use a wheelchair. Looking at current laws overlooking EV chargers, he's noticed that electric vehicle charging stations are not accessible for those in a wheelchair. So we're looking at legislation with regards to that. So just a couple things on the docket. We had subject matter hearing on Leader McCombie's Health Ethics and Elections Committee, which would prohibit elected officials from using political campaign donations to pay for criminal defenses. House Bill 4119. So those are some snapshots with regards to that. One of the things I do want to highlight is Major General Neely. I have worked with the whole time I've been in the General Assembly, going back now 10 years in various capacities. He is announced he is going to retire. Major General Neely is the Adjutant General for the Illinois, Commander of the Illinois National Guard, and Director of the Illinois Department of Military Affairs. Now, Illinois is unique where we have the Illinois National Guard, but the Illinois National Guard is composed of two components. We have the Illinois Air National Guard and the Illinois Army National Guard. And Major General Neely was from the Air Force side of that equation. And then Sergeant Major Blue, who retired last year, was the Army side of that equation. So Major General Neely is set to retire from the military in May after 40 years of service. So the National Guard will hold its official change of command ceremony in May. And Governor Pritzker is the commander-in-chief of the Illinois National Guard, and the appointment of General Boyd does not require Illinois Senate confirmation. So Governor Pritzker announces, is going to change guard, and General Boyd, who I met, a wonderful person, is going to take command. So what does that mean? A lot of people don't understand the Illinois National Guard. Understandable. So as commander of the Illinois National Guard, General Neely oversaw the federal overseas deployment of 4,800 soldiers and airmen to 21 countries around the world, and 5,600 service members on state active duty, exceeding 500,000 duty days combined. So Major General Neely, who has 2 combat deployments in Iraq and served as the Adjutant General since February of 2019. So beginning in 2020, General Neely directed the largest and longest domestic operation activation in the Illinois National Guard history in response to COVID-19 pandemic. So the Illinois National Guard soldiers and airmen assisted with 250,000 COVID-19 tests, delivered 8 million masks, administered nearly 2 million vaccines throughout the state, among many other support missions. General Neely directed 5 Illinois National Guard activations in response to civil unrest, including support to the nation's capital following January 6, 2021. These activations involved 1,500 service members and more than 14,000 duty days. He led the Illinois National Guard during major flooding in 2019, involving 830 soldiers over 9 weeks. So during his tenure, General Neely oversaw the Illinois National Guard State Partnership Program with Poland. During one mission, the Illinois National Guard service members provided direct training support to Poland's newly formed Territorial Defense Force in wake of Russia's ongoing invasion of the Ukraine. And due to General Neely's exceptional efforts, he was awarded the Polish Commander's Cross with Silver Star Order of Merit from the President of Poland in 2022. General Neely was also the nation's first cyberspace officer to serve as the Adjutant General and was a nationwide leader in cybersecurity. So he's just an extraordinarily individual that Illinois was honored to have. He was a senior cyber advisor to the chief and vice chief of the National Guard Bureau, national lead on implementation for nationwide integration of time resiliency for operations, vice chair of the National Guard Bureau Cyber General Officer, chair of the Army National Guard Information Cyber Readiness Advisory Council, and the senior advisor for cybersecurity and critical infrastructure for U.S. Northern Command Dual Status Commands course. He's only the second Air Force officer to serve as the Adjutant General of Illinois and the first since Major General Harold Holsinger retired in 1991. So prior to his appointment, General Neely served in the Pentagon for nearly 5 years, starting as the Chief of Current Operations, Deputy Director for Cyber, Communications, and Space Operations, serving as the Air National Guard's Chief Information Officer, and his final assignment in the Pentagon was as the Principal Deputy Director for Air Operations, Intelligence, Cyber, and Space Operations. General Neely has a bachelor's degree from Illinois State University and was inducted into the ISU College of Business Hall of Fame last year. Holds a master's degree in public administration, policy, and leadership with chief information officer concentration from the National Defense University. Now, Governor Pritzker has selected Major General Rodney Boyd. I've met him, an amazing individual as well. He is currently the Assistant Adjutant General, and he is from the Army. So, and commander of the Illinois Army National Guard as the 41st Adjutant General for the Illinois, and the next commander of the Illinois National Guard and Director of Military Affairs. General Boyd will be the first African-American officer and person of color to command the Illinois National Guard. So I've met Major General Boyd, again, an outstanding individual, and I look forward to the changing of the guard in May. If you haven't seen a changing of the guard ceremony, well, I tend to think it's really, really a wonderful, wonderful ceremony, and really solemn, and it's something that I'm looking forward to seeing if I can with my Springfield schedule, with regards to giving respects for a long career of Major General Neely, and welcoming in Major General Rodney Boyd. Going right along, a couple other things. I know that we started a little bit late. We have the governor has been doing a couple things. He signed an executive order on pharmaceuticals, creating a framework for financing and expanding access to new and transformative therapies and drugs. Recently approved gene therapy for sickle cell disease. He has gone to California to meet with business and film leaders. We do have a film tax credit. Chicago is, a well selected site for film, and so he went to California to take part of meeting with that. The Illinois Commission on Equity and Inclusion has a new webinar series. The gaming board has renewed the license for the Paradise Hotel Casino in East Peoria. And then the Illinois Board of Higher Education awarded some grants in 2024, mostly for nursing schools. We do have, again, as I said, with regards to the veteran homes, that we do have a nursing shortage. And then the Illinois EPA has funding for EV charging infrastructure that parlays with the legislation to try to make them more accessible. And then a couple reports from the Illinois Housing Development Authority, the Pollution Control Board, and then hazardous materials incidents reports. So a couple of reports came down from the governor's office, from the departments under the governor. So we do also, we have a newly funded state program, the Illinois Department of Public Health. So we have our Illinois Department of Public Health Director, Dr. Samir Vora, signed a standing order allowing trained personnel in Illinois schools to use undesignated asthma inhalers on hand to treat students who develop respiratory distress. So undesignated medications are those that are not prescribed for a specific student, but can be used in an emergency to address any student symptoms related to asthma or other respiratory issues. So the order provides the prescription necessary so that every school in the state can have and use this critical medication for asthma. So that's another caveat under the governor's office, the department's under the governor's office. So under the standing order, when a student is known to have asthma or one with no prior history exhibits signs of severe respiratory distress, a school nurse or other trained personnel may administer an approved quick relief medication such as that administered through inhaler. And then the school is required to promptly notify students' parents or guardian because they need to know what's going on. So the standing order is looking to enhance the efforts of the RESQUE Illinois Schools Program, which was established under the enactment of the asthma medication law, and that was back in the 100th General Assembly in 2018. So making sure that that is in the schools to help the kids. So Chicago is suing Glock over a design that allows easy conversion to machine guns. We might have talked about this last week, but tiny devices called auto sears or switches can be affixed to handguns such as Glocks, allowing them to fire repeatedly with a single trigger pull. And they cost as less than $25. Can be bought online. They can even be printed at home on 3D printers. The lawsuit states that Glock should change this. That's ignored warnings and needs to, change the design. Excuse me. Makes sense to me. So other than that, not much else going on. Excuse me. The General Assembly is out for this week. So had to take a quick drink. So the General Assembly is out this week, and we will be back next week in the House. Only the Senate will be gone 2 weeks. So other than that, I just want to say to get your solar eclipse glasses in the office if you haven't gotten them yet. Again, normal pickup hours from today through April 7th, and the solar eclipse is April 8th, so you don't have much time left. The maximum viewing in Aurora is at 2:06 p.m. So definitely make sure you pick up your glasses from the office. Right there, 1677 Montgomery Road in Aurora. So other than that, I don't have much else on my docket. Again, my apologies for starting late. Computers always like to restart at the most inopportune time. And then leaving you with this, Governor Blagojevich filed suit against the General Assembly to allow him to run for office again. He has been barred from running for office. He filed suit because he says even though he's been convicted and he had a felony, that he should be able to run for office because it is the individuals, the voters, who should decide who represents them, not the fact that he was impeached by the House twice in 29, and the Senate convicted him, removing him from office, and the Senate unanimously voted to prohibit the governor from ever future public office again. The justices said no. And in fact, in an atypical opinion, the opinion closes with quotes from Dr. Seuss. Judge Seeger dismissed the claims and wrote that many have thought and longed to say, enough is enough, please go now. So we will leave you with that tidbit of information. What has been going on in the state of Illinois for this week. We will be back in April. Next week, Sunday is Easter, and then we will be back right after that, which is, I gotta say, April 1, April Fool's Day. So thank you for watching. James, Meta's on, Roger, and Gay and Bonnie. Thank you all for your comments. Thanks for the updates. Thanks for tuning in. And with that, there's still some COVID out there. So, be safe, hand sanitize. Never hurts to keep your distance once in a while. And if you're feeling ill, wear a mask. Keep your germs to yourself. Today it's going to be 50. It's rainy a little bit, but the weather, swung 20 degrees or 10 degrees from yesterday morning. Yesterday morning, it was a balmy 32 that I was in the race, and now it's going to be around 40s and 50s today. So, but with that, have a great week, and we will be zooming back with you on a Facebook Live Coffee with Kiffy next week, next Monday. So take care, everybody, on this last week of Women's History Month. Have a great one.